So I saw Star Wars the first time when I was in 5th grade, so I was like 10 years old. That was 1996, and I was in the same camp as everybody else, which is that if a man named George Lucas brought this into my life, then that man must be God. But I don't think it was until episode 2 that things went really south for me. And by this point, I was in mid-high school, and the Lord of the Rings trilogy was coming out right around the same time, and I thought those. A lot of people are going to disagree with me. I thought those films were absolutely perfect, or at least if you don't like it, if you think it's too long, if you think there's too many endings, whatever. There was just so much more craft. I felt there was so much more personality in the director of Peter Jackson than in the director of George Lucas. So I was starting to dabble in animation and dabble in filmmaking myself as a high school student, and I was pushed to create Lord of the Rings by George Lucas. After I put Lord of the Rings by George Lucas up on YouTube, a few years later, I put it up in '06, and it got like 2 million hits out of nowhere. So that's a testament for how much people care about Star Wars and George Lucas bashing. And it was split right down the middle in terms of the commentary. I still, to this day, I think there are 5,000 comments on that video. To this day, I still get like 5 a day. And 3 of them will be like, yeah, that's really funny. I love when you said that Lucas sucked. And the other 2 people will be like, this is an atrocity, the worst video on YouTube. So people aren't indifferent about this. I mean, occasionally I'll get one where it's like, I like Star Wars, but this is pretty funny. But the amount of people that just feel like it's such an affront to them and an affront to film history to call this man to task, and they say sometimes, they'll say things like, I just hope that you're only joking about this and that this isn't serious to you because George Lucas is a god. And I have to respond to these because they're just so ludicrous, and that's been going on for like 2 years. The more I watched it, the more sort of this caricature of Lucas became kind of like this fun character of mine. So when Indiana Jones 4 was coming out, I wasn't going to make anything. And just at the very last minute, I said, I should really make something right before the movie comes out, so that nobody can say you were biased, you know, whatever. I'll make a cartoon that simply makes fun of what Lucas could do to Indiana Jones 4, not what I think he would do.
We don't need a script. This is the digital age. Computers and electricity and money. Computer generated. I don't use locations, I have computers. There should be a shot of a banana slapping itself in the face.
When the very first thing you see in a new Indiana Jones film that promises to have limited amounts of CG is a CG prairie dog, I honestly thought, and other people have said this, so I'm not joking, I honestly thought that it was like a Pixar like opening animation to the film, like that we were still sort of watching previews and trailers and whatnot.
Bon appetit.
I never thought I would say this, but 2 weeks later I saw the Sex and the City movie. It was better than Indiana Jones 4. And Shia LaBeouf was the best actor in Indiana Jones 4.
No, thank you. Wait, did I just do that no thing?
And then there's this other argument that I've heard not only George Lucas make over the years. That's fine. He's crazy and senile and turning into Jabba the Hutt. So I have no problem with him saying insane stuff. But the fans reiterate this as though it's fact and as though it's perfectly valid. It's my story. I should be allowed to make whatever I want because it's mine. Because 20 years ago I created it. So now that it is my story, you can't criticize me. Because I made it. I mean, imagine if White Noise 5 came out and everybody was like, hey, easy on the bad reviews, because it's his story and it's his personal thing, so leave it alone. It's like, that's not how film criticism works. That's not how film fandom works. You know, if something's bad, you get called out on it. If the fan base is disappointed, you get called out on it. And what's really funny is that Steven Spielberg, in his interviews, says pretty much the exact opposite thing.
Indiana Jones belongs to the fans, to the audience.
You can't just get so bold about what you've created to say, it's mine now, it's not yours.
You can't be preoccupied with what other people think. Like Star Wars, for instance, is my story. Just like my house is, my house. So if I want to paint my house green, even if everyone else thinks it should be red, guess what? I'm going to paint it Jar Jar.
Well, Lucas, we don't all have to live in your house, but we all do have to live with the prequels. It has so much more to do with in his own mind, knowing that he's right about every decision that he makes, and surrounding himself. Actually, he doesn't have to surround himself with people that think he's right. It's just pretty much everybody does think it's right. It's that blind loyalty thing. That if this man made these movies and made film history with these movies, then he can do no wrong.
I love George.
Oh, I think he's great.
Oh, he's a genius and rich.
He's my new dad.
I hate his guts.
I loathe that man.
And we've seen this with other directors. We've seen it with arguably Quentin Tarantino, definitely M. Night Shyamalan. It's just, once you have that one hit where it's like, we've seen nothing like this before, then you can do no wrong. You don't have to send your script out. And that's, as many jokes as I make about CG, I think the number one problem with those movies were those scripts.
We don't need a script.
I think it all stems from just having no limits in terms of what you can pay for, what you can create, because of the new technology, that it enables him to create anything in his imagination rather than making a compromise that could perhaps result in something even more creative than the original idea. And I'll bet you anything that the only person that did rewrites or notes on those scripts was George Lucas himself.
It's my story. That's why I'm the only one who's gonna watch it.
I will be the most powerful Jedi ever.